Let's briefly explain how IMAP works. It works slightly different from POP in the sense that the contents of the messages and the messages themselves are actually stored on the mail server. It works kind of like this. Let's say that somebody writes you an email. They send their email through their SMTP server. It connects to the internet, finds its way to your ISPs, and then it arrives to your incoming mail server. So let's say that you have mail set up to check your IMAP account, or using the IMAP protocol to get your messages. When you check your messages, what the IMAP server does is it just takes the header and sends a copy of the header to your machine. And again, remember that the header contains things like the date, who sent it, who's receiving it, and very important, the subject of the message. But it does not contain the payload of the message itself. It doesn't contain the big chunk of the message, especially if there's an attachment. So let's say that you receive hundreds and hundreds of messages. By only downloading the headers of the messages, you download or you get to check your email really fast because you don't need to transfer lots and lots of data. Now, if you do decide to read a message, when you open that message, what the IMAP server will do is at that point, it will actually send you a copy of the contents of the message. The thing that is interesting though is that the message is still kept on the IMAP server, which means that if you connect using another device, actually go to this other diagram here. Let's say that you connect to another device using your iPhone. Well, just reset my diagram. In that case, when you check your email using IMAP through your iPhone, you get the same idea. The header gets transferred over to your iPhone. If you decide to read the message gets transferred over, but again, it's still stored on the IMAP server. The other thing that I tried to define in this diagram here is that it's not only receiving the messages, but if you have a hierarchy of folders in your account, that hierarchy of folders is actually replicated on the IMAP server. So let's say that you have an incoming folder, and within you have your personal folder, and then you have your business incoming folder. All of that organization is actually replicated on the server itself. So when you use your device to connect to the mail server, you actually synchronize the device, getting the exact same hierarchy of folders and messages on any of the devices. So if you get the choice of using POP or IMAP, it's totally up to you and depends on how you want to use them. Just one note about POP. I did mention that for the most part, when you check your messages with POP, everything gets transferred over to your computer and it gets deleted on the server. Well, that's not necessarily the case. You can set your email client so that when it retrieves the messages, everything gets copied over and the original still gets stored on the POP server. What that does is that if you use POP on another device and you check your message, the whole thing gets transferred over. And depending on which device is set up to erase the message, that's the one that would be actually deleting the message on the server. Personally, for example, I like POP better than IMAP, and I use multiple devices. And what I do is I do not delete email except from only one computer, my desktop computer. And what that does is that one deletes messages after they've been on the server for 10 days. We'll see how we can make those settings on Mail once we go through the process of creating an account on Mail.